Hi, everybody.
Hello, I'm Ryan.
I'm Bethany.
And we are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
And today we're talking about The Spill. This is designed by Andy Kim. It is published by Smirk Dagger, and it has Kwanchai Moria art.
You guys, this is a full cooperative game. You may have heard of something like it's called a tower defense game, right? Where things are trying to attack your tower and you're trying to repel everybody around you. This is kind of like an opposite version of that. Basically, you've got a giant oil rig. Oil is kind of spilling out from the middle, and you're trying to contain it. You are trying to contain it in order to prevent it from affecting all this different wildlife that's out in the ocean. Yes, it's like a tower defense in reverse. Let me show you how to play. All right, here is our setup for The Spill. Basically, what we have is we have this oceanic scene. However, right in the middle of it, we have this oil rig. And this oil rig is leaking out oil. You can see this big oil spill happening right in the middle there. That oil rig is also going to double as our cube tower or our dice tower. We've got kind of 4 quadrants of the board, kind of these little pie slices here. Every player is going to start in one of those quadrants. And also what we're going to do is we're going to drop dice down inside that. They're going to spill out into those quadrants and then lay out on the board. We're going to start the game by dropping down 8 of them, but throughout the course of the game, we're going to be dropping on more and more every single turn. So let's drop some down there and see what it looks like. So every area got a little bit of something. What you're going to do is you're going to dig through there, and you're going to put the dice that landed in the quadrants on the number that matches them. So here we have a 2 in this quadrant. We're going to put it at the top of that 2 column. The pie slice as a whole is called a quadrant, and an individual number within that is called a sector. So we've got over here a 6, a 1, and that was a 3 before I messed it up. You put it at the top of the column because it's kind of spreading out from that middle area. So we have 2 major jobs that we want to accomplish. First of all, we want to keep it contained as much as possible. Everything that's going to happen is going to spill out over if we fill a whole sector. So basically what's going to happen if we had 3 here, 1, 2, 3 dice, and need to place a 4th one, the 4th one would go clockwise, spill over into the next area. And that's bad news. We have these little spill out markers over here. We would put that on a quadrant if we ever got that far. If you place too many of those, you're going to lose the game. But also, in addition to the oil dice themselves, we also have all this wildlife, all this sea life all on the outside of the board. We've got turtles, pelicans, dolphins, all kinds of stuff. We also need to rescue them from being contaminated by the oil. If an oil die ever landed on a spot where there was a marine animal, that basically the animal would become contaminated. So let's say we had this situation, a 2 there and another 2. First of all, that would have, like we have shown here, trigger a spill out because it's full. But also, this little stingray guy, he'll be flipped over and is now contaminated. He's covered in oil. We basically have until the end of that turn where they were contaminated to basically rescue them, or else they're going to go into the sick bay. Once they go into the sick bay, that's one of our lose conditions as well. So we'll go over here if we did not have time to rescue it. So it's all kind of doom and gloom, right? You've got this oil, it's spilling out everywhere. It's going to keep on trickling over, affecting more and more areas. You have all this wildlife that's also being affected. What can we possibly do in return? Well, we've got these different win conditions. At the top left here, it tells you how many difficulty it is. This is a 3 difficulty card. We also have 1 difficulty cards. What you're going to do is you're going to pick your difficulty level. Within that, you're going to shuffle up the cards, and you are going to pick one of them. So here's one of the easier cards. This one says it's got 3 different win conditions. We have to complete them all in order to win. This one says, remove 4 oil dice within 4 consecutive turns. This one says, remove a total of 9 oil dice from the game. And this one says, save 4 full sets of marine life, a set meaning like 1 of each kind. So if you're able to complete all of those, these little markers here, by the end of the game, if you haven't triggered one of the losing conditions and you have met all the win conditions, you win the game. Also, to help us out, we are all different characters. There's tons of different characters here. They all have different special abilities, different discounts on actions, all that kind of stuff that's going to be on here. Basically, anything you can think of, there's going to be help for it. Help rescuing animals, help controlling oil, all that kind of stuff. Also, on all of them, it lists what all the different action costs are. So if you're moving around, it costs 1 action per move. You can go up to 2 sections per move. It takes 1 action point to rescue a healthy marine animal. Over here, you can show it shows 2 action points to rescue a contaminated marine animal. You can also push an oil die back. What you do when you do that is, you basically just take the die off of the board and you simply put it right back in the bag. It helps you temporarily, but long term it's going to come back. And then we have over here the really strong one. This is removing an oil die off the board completely, and that takes 3 action points. In addition to the oil die, inside the bag you're also going to find some of these weather dice. Weather dice can be either really good or really bad for your cleanup efforts. What's going to happen is you're going to roll it. When you pull it, it's going to basically do one of these effects. Sometimes they're good, like you can actually get extra action points. Sometimes it makes it more expensive to rescue animals, harder to move around. All kinds of different effects happen from the weather dice. Every player is going to be affected by that for one whole turn. In addition to the main board, we also have what's called the situation board. This is going to be kind of where we kind of keep track of all the things that we've been doing. So first of all, across the very top, there's 3 modes of play, kind of basically call it easy, medium, and hard to make it simpler. It tells you how many dice you're going to put down the oil well each time. So it starts off easy, 3, then it becomes 4, 5, maybe even 6, depending on your difficulty level. It's going to keep on moving up every time you have one of those spillouts. So you want to try to minimize as many spillouts, that way it minimizes how many dice you're going to have to put into the container. We also have our rescued marine life area over here. We want to try to rescue as many as possible, try to avoid having to go to the sick bay, but whether they're contaminated or not, you're going to put them over in this area. Now there's all different animals, kind of a little grid thing happening over here. If you're able to get a set of them, one of each animal, you're going to unlock one of these little orange cubes. You're going to want these because they're going to help out with your resources. Similarly, we have this kind of removed oil area. You can remove the oil like we talked about. When you do that, you put it on the board. And as soon as you've done 3 of them, you get to get another one of those cubes. We've also got a little chart over here kind of explaining all the different weather effects. But as far as the resources go, we've got all these different resource cards. What you're going to do is you're going to shuffle them up, deal 2 to each player, and they are going to choose one of them to put into play. So looking at those, might flip that one over. You know what, that's the one we want to use. The next player might put that one out until there's 4 of those resource cards out there. And this is what you use those orange cubes that we earned on. This particular one says, during the spill phase, do not draw or drop the dice indicated on the spill out tracker this turn. Any dice in the extra action pool must still be dropped. This basically gives you a pass on dropping more dice down the dice tower. It does, however, take 2 of those cubes in order to enact that. So we'd say we did that, spent 2 of the cubes that we had earned, we'd mark them on there like that, and now once the card has been used, we're going to replace it with another card from the deck. Some cards actually have 2 different effects, and they're kind of divided by this line over here. Like this one says there's an action for 1 cube, this one says there's an action for 2 cubes. The ones that are only a 1 cube action are usually pretty cool and helpful. However, the ones with the 2 cubes are usually a little more stronger, usually more specified. In some way, they're better. So you want to try to earn as many of those cubes as possible so you can use as many of these action points as possible to help you along the way. Alright, so as far as winning the game, remember we had those different win conditions based off whatever card you used. They're varied based off of rescuing certain kinds of animals, certain amounts of animals, removing oil dye, avoiding spellouts, all those kinds of things, but they're all different. Each win card is different. You're going to lose the game if the sickbay holds at least 1 of all of the different kinds of marine animals, or 3 of a single type of animal. Or the board contains 6 or more of those spillouts. Those are different ways we can lose. The wins are all varied. Do the best you can. This is a tough one. Don't forget, this is a full cooperative game. Work together the best you can to avoid the spill.
This game worked really well at 2 players. Most cooperative games can do well at 2 players, but this one worked I thought it worked really well. There's always going to be 4 characters in the game, whether you're playing 2, 3, or 4. If you're playing 4, everybody has a character. If you're playing 3, everybody's a character. It's the 4th character that everybody controls, but in 2-player, you each have 2 characters that you are controlling, and I just felt like that worked really well. You felt like you were participating as much as everybody else because you each have 2 players, and you could kind of, I don't know, it just like worked really well when we were playing that. We played 3 players as well a few times. That was totally fine, and I still enjoyed that too, but I just thought it was really, really good at 2 players.
I also enjoyed how this was very variable as far as the difficulty level. First of all, you had those win conditions. Every one of them was variable, and on top of that, they were kind of categorized by those 1, 2, or 3 dots, basically how difficult they are. And on top of that, you also have, I would call the easy, medium, and hard versions, with it's like standard, challenge, or ultimate versions.
Ultimate.
How many of those dice are going to get dropped? How many of those dice are going to get dropped down the oil rig every time? So I liked how you could kind of modify and choose how difficult you want this game to be every single time you play. Do you want a super easy mode, which still isn't easy? You can do the level 1 challenge cards, the victory cards, with just the standard gameplay with standard dice dropping. Or if you want to ramp it up, you can get level 3 with level 3, you know? So there's all this variability. Every time you play, you're going to have a different experience, and as you get better and better at the game, you can kind of change what you choose.
And I thought that this was one of the games where the theme makes a lot of sense to the gameplay. Like, yes, it makes sense that you're rescuing an animal, but it also makes sense it's going to cost you more. Like, it's going to take you more time to rescue an animal that's been contaminated. Yeah, you can push the oil back, but it's going to cost you even more resources to just eliminate the oil. I just thought that, like, thematically, everything made sense, which is really nice because it's easy to learn and it's easy to teach when it makes sense with what you're doing. Even how the boats moved around, right? Like, you had to move around, and you can't just, like, jump across, right? And there's no way that you can do that. You have to go around in this section, and how the special abilities made sense with what you were doing with the gameplay and with what those cards were doing and how they could manipulate the board. It wasn't like, none of them felt like they were huge rule breaking, but it made sense with the character that it was. So I just thought that thematically, it really matched the gameplay. And like I said just seconds ago, but it just really makes games easy to teach and learn when the theme matches the mechanics.
And also what makes that a little easier, I think, sometimes is having great components. And these components were brilliant. So first of all, you have that giant, centerpiece of the game, which is that oil rig. Yeah. This big, bright dice tower is sitting right in the middle of the table on the top of this giant oil spill. That's super eye-catching. You're going to see that across the room, across your game store, or, wherever you're at. You're going to see it and be like, what is going on over there? But on top of that, then you have the dice. The dice themselves have this oily kind of sheen to them that looks like actual oil. So as you're placing them on the board, it looks like oil is spilling out. Yeah. And then on top of that, you have all these little customized little mini boat figures, these little boat meeples, I don't know what to call them, and each one of them has a different shape and color, which makes everything unique. And man, on top of that, you throw that Quantum Moria art on top of all of that veneer on top of everything. It really brings the package together. It just has a fantastic table presence. Like I said, it just matches the theme brilliantly, so it all fits together really nicely.
So the whole time Ryan was talking, I was trying to figure out how to blend boat and meeples together.
Beeple?
Bopal?
Bopal. We're gonna go Bopal.
I said Bopal in my head, and I was like, don't say it out loud, Bethany, just keep it in your head. But then Ryan said it, so it's totally fine. And then I really like the resource cards that you get. So you have, so you know what your big challenges are, and then you get the resource cards, you get two and you choose one, and I really like that for multiple reasons. Is that sometimes when you get like added abilities, they don't really help you with what you're doing. But with the choose two, pick one, I think that you can, at least with some of the people, you can try and match those resource cards to the challenge that you're doing. You can try to get them to work together. And you're not even going to use all the resources. There's no way that you're going to get enough cubes and not have already won the game to use all those resources. So I like that you have that variety, knowing that you're not going to use all of it, but still trying to build up, because it definitely does help you and it gives you a direction, and you can oftentimes match it to what what your challenge is in that game. So I just really like the resource cards.
One thing that was a little strange for me in the game was this weather dice, and I thematically understand how weather can definitely mess up with the oil cleanup of an oil spill, right? So having that tie in it was kind of cool, but at the same time, mechanically within the game, it felt like kind of a blip on the radar almost. There's only, out of this giant bag of dice, there's only 4 of them that are the weather dice, and when they happen, it has some small little effect, Yeah.
And sometimes you're not even going to, do the action that it's going to prevent you from doing. Like, it wouldn't even make sense for you to do it anyway.
Yeah, like you weren't planning on healing or rescuing animals that round, but animals cost extra to rescue that round, or whatever the case is, or you weren't planning on moving a whole lot, but movement is extra. It's just this very, very small, kind of like a little, slap on the wrist that didn't affect anything. It'd almost be just worse to have just more oil.
Yes.
So, I don't know. I felt like thematically it worked well, but mechanically in the game, they dedicated a lot of rulebook time and space on the board and tokens and all that stuff for something that was kind of a non-issue for us.
Yeah. Overall, one of the things that I think is great about this game is the customizable. What am I trying to say?
Customizable, you said it.
Okay, yes. I was trying to put ability in there, because ability is fun to say. How you can do that with this game, the difficulty level. So you can customize the difficulty level without, adding to the setup time. right? So like the cards, it's 1, 2, or 3 with the difficulty. So you can you're already choosing a card. You're not adding more to choose a card. On the board, you can choose, like Ryan said in the beginning, you can choose which level to put those on. And in a lot of games that are cooperative like this and you are trying to make it more difficult, there's more setup time. You have to add more cards into the deck, or you have to pull this out instead of this out. And this one, there is 0 time added to make it difficult. And so if your gaming group really likes things super difficult, you can do that. And if your gaming group doesn't like super difficult cooperative games, you can do that. Like the customizability of this game when it comes to difficulty, I think is what makes it shine the most out of as opposed to a lot of cooperative games, because it has a wide spectrum of easy to difficult without changing at all how long it takes to set up the game. And I just think that's super unique.
You guys, we have played a lot of games, like a lot of games in our time. But you know what? We're always looking for unique games. Oh my gosh, the spill brought us that uniqueness. You had unique mechanics, you had unique gameplay, you had unique table presence. The whole game just felt unique and fresh and different. And at the same time, it wasn't, it had this big structure and all this stuff, and it wasn't a gimmick. It actually worked mechanically in the game, and it was just so smooth. It was just turns were lightning fast because of using that. I thought this was just a really fun game. This is going to be in rotation in our collection for a long time. This is a game, we love cooperative games, we love challenging cooperative games, and we love unique games. This hits all the boxes for me. This is just a really great game. I just really like the spill.
Everybody, thank you so much for watching it. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see our videos as they come out. Until then, you can follow us in all of these places.
You guys, thanks for watching, and we will see us next time. We will see you next time. You will see us next time?
Just bye.
We'll see each other next time.
Just tell them bye. Just go bye.
Bye.
Bye.